When I was buying those homes, I was working as a submarine mechanic, if you can believe that. There was a guy that was in the boiler shop who said, hey, you should start buying stocks and you should buy real estate. That's where I got the idea, literally, a boiler mechanic.
Well, we all have advisors.
You talk about it privately, we talk about it publicly. This is the Real Estate Insiders Unfiltered podcast. Welcome again to the Real Estate Insiders Unfiltered podcast. I'm your host, Dwiggy, along with crazy Uncle Keith.
Yes, sir.
We had a really, really fun guest on today. We had Byron Lazine. He's the CEO of BAM. You probably all know him. You've seen the content, but what you may not also know is he's the team leader of one team in Connecticut, the number one team there. Keith, we went down two tracks, actually, both background on BAM and then also the team. So give them some insight into our conversation because it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, another great origin story. It's one of my favorite things about doing this is we get to hear how people ended up in residential real estate. And it is almost always this very interesting tale. So great conversation around that. He has a concept called backwards momentum, which I really liked. I had not heard it articulated that way, and I thought it was great. He talks about his start in real estate, how he got rolling fast, the importance and power of differentiation, another 10-year overnight success concept, how to find your voice in residential real estate, the importance of being comfortable with not being liked, and the importance of training in our industry. And then you've got to focus on revenue generating activities, going from how he has worked with his partner to build BAM to something special, and also built and run a special real estate team. This one covers a lot of ground. You are going to dig it. Put it in yours, kids.
Byron, welcome to the podcast. Long time coming. You got to witness Keith and my stupidity and insanity in the green room for a few minutes.
Welcome to the show.
Hey man, we're excited to have you, buddy. This is you've got a really crazy story. You're obviously very influential in the industry. You've got an amazing show, huge real estate team. We only have so much time. We got so many questions, but I guess let's just start with this. Tell everybody just your story a little bit. I was going to lead into it, but I figure it's best for you to tell it because, man, it's a really cool story to hear in your background on how you got to be at the level of success that you are. And I will shut up and let you drive for a few minutes and give us that background.
I think maybe the unusual part of the story is a little overstated because there's so many resilient players in real estate that have gone through something. I mean, my story is, public school, small town Connecticut. My mom was a hairdresser. Dad was a mechanic. And I bought 3 homes, 19 to 21, ages 19 to 21, not the years. And those were 04, 05, 06.
Perfect timing.
Right? So
perfect timing.
It was mortgage crisis years.
Yeah.
I was under the belief, like I said, public schooling, no education, from the college level or anything like that. I'm of the belief of like real estate this is before you could say going to the moon about, crypto and all the meme stocks. Shout out all the open door fanboys right now. Before you could really say to the moon, that's what I thought about real estate at 19 years old. Like, how am I going to get mine? And so really just thinking about getting rich, like most 19-year-old dumb kids, and bought 3 houses, 4 loans. And by the time December of 2008 rolled around, I was faced with the dilemma of filing bankruptcy, which I did on December 31st, 2008. When I was buying those homes, I was working as a submarine mechanic, if you can believe that. Connecticut builds submarines. They have one customer. It's the Navy. There was a guy that was in the boiler shop who said, hey, you should start buying stocks and you should buy real estate. That's where I got the idea, literally. A boiler mechanic told me
we all
this.
have advisors.
That was my first advisor. Okay. And listen, I didn't get advice outside of you should do this. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And loans are easy. They're giving them out like Skittles. I had a loan officer who I went to high school with. He got his LO license, and I would just call him. His name was Big, or his nickname was Big Red. Big Red, need another loan. Let's go. Let's do this. Let's write this thing up. At the Naval Shipyard, they'd call me. This is before it was like, a bad thing to say. They'd say, this guy's mini Trump. He's got these 2 families. He's buying up this real estate. You know, it was unusual for a 19-year-old to be buying homes, but I didn't know what I didn't know. You know, I didn't know that location really matters in real estate. When you buy crappy real estate that doesn't go up even in a boom time because you think the area is going to be regentrified, even if it doesn't ever get there, you can lose really badly on the equity play. And, you know, there's really no cash flow when you're extending on those little 2 families. So by December 31st, 2008, I go bankrupt. I switch my day-to-day job. I go to a nuclear power plant because my dad had been there 30 years hating his life. So I figured, hey, if he hates his life, why don't I just do that? Because I'm hating mine right now.
My dad's life. Maybe it could ruin mine.
100%. And he said, you're going to hate this. And he told me, don't do it. I did it anyways because it was a pay jump and I was just living in negative momentum, you know, living in remorse of the mistakes I made.
And you thought money would fix it, right? And it doesn't, but you had to learn that. Yeah. If I get 20%, 25% bump on my annual, that'll solve my problems. And it didn't. For about 2 or 3 years, I was in a really pretty dark place. I call it backwards momentum. When you're thinking about the past, you're only moving one place as opposed to thinking about the future. I love thinking about the future. Now I've got momentum moving in the right direction. And so bottom of the market, 11, 12, I quit there in 11 and just went and got my license. Everybody said I was insane. All the agents I had met, you know, shopping for homes, because I looked at 50 homes before I even bought one when I was 19. I met a bunch of agents. They're like, don't do it. I'm getting out. I'm going to insurance. But I'd rather work 80, 100 hours, that Mark Cuban clip. I'd rather work 80 or 100 hours for myself and break even than, you know, work the 40 hours a week for somebody else. Yeah.
You know, it's funny. We were asking these questions and we like you, and we'll get into your background and all the things there, but we get to interview a lot of people and it is so fascinating where people come from who get into real estate. Like just there's no path. It's just, it's this wild west of all these different careers, you know, running into it. I want to ask you
James,
this.
Yeah. Well, no, I was just going to add to that. Realistically, I didn't start truly educating myself until I got my license 2011, 2012 and started my real estate sales career, like real education. Right. You know, I breezed through high school because I wanted to play football. So, you know, a 65 was a really good score. You know, I can stay on the field with a 65. You mean
on the test or on the scoreboard?
On the report card, you know, like on the scoreboard, that'd be fantastic, right? But like if I could just get eligibility to play sports, that was my whole thing. And I lacked serious motivation to educate myself after high school because for 18 years, 17 years, I didn't dive into education. So I'm a believer in education. I think for a lot of real estate people, we have these similar stories where until you really start to dig into that non-traditional, like I'm going to go get a bunch of debt in college education, that's where things can really change for you.
Yeah.
When was the moment you realized that it was going to be your long-term career and not just like a comeback? Like what was that moment in time? Was it your first transaction? Was it
that first check?
Like the first check? Like what made you go, this is going to be where I go?
From the point I got my license, I mean, it was pretty quickly on. You know, I was not somebody who came into the industry with the mindset of like, I love homes or I'm, you know, wanting to control my own schedule. Like I'm coming in because I want to create a comeback story. I want to go all in on this, but you still don't know if it's going to work out. I've always been of the belief, I've never worked a deal, you know, even when I was in production where I'm making over 35% of the total compensation available, meaning like I came into it partnering with people from day one to accelerate the career. I think a lot of people come in and it's like, man, what's the model that I can get the highest split or, you know, get some other sources of revenue off of this model or whatever the case may be. I came in, it's like, how do I ramp up transactions? And when I realized you come into that mindset, you create the right partnerships, you start working with people, not against everybody, it can happen very quickly. My first deal was a land deal, and it was like an OG agent in the area. And I didn't pay attention to what back in those days, the comp offer was. And so the comp offer at the closing, it was my friend just wanted to buy a piece of land. He had some cash. He was a pretty gritty dude. And the comp for the buy side, this is like old school stuff, was five, what's.
Yeah.
And, she was signing 10 for land. And I was like, whoa, what is this? Mm-hmm. And she's like, yeah, it's land. This is how I do it. I sign my lands at 10 and I give them out for 5. And I was like, whoa, the upside on this is incredible. Yeah. And so, I caught the bug very early on and caught the listing bug because at the time there's so much inventory. And when I realized I could get 50 by the second year, I had 50 listings at one time. I was only selling one a week. So I'm like, I'll have a deal every single week for the rest of the year. But a lot of conversations because of the high inventory levels. When I realized that can change your brand and your name in the conversation in, a local community when everybody's doing newspaper and I'm the only one doing Facebook lives and that kind of stuff. I'm like, ooh, this is super addicting. You gamify it. And then when sellers are like, do you even know my name? When you're bumping into them in a grocery store, you're like, okay, infrastructure, assistance, like I need to add some stuff to this.
Right. So you were an early mover on social media as far as your brand. Is that like, if you were to hang your hat on one thing that got you from, I think I'm going to get my real estate license to 50 listings in year 2, what would you attribute that to?
It was Facebook. Facebook was super frothy at the time. Everybody who you would consider a top producer in my local market was all on the newspaper. So they had their, pages on the newspaper with their blocks of listings and or direct mail. Like that was it. Yeah. And so if somebody's been mailing to you for 10, 15 years and I pop up with a mailer, which I did play in the mail space early on, but I went super like, this will be funny because obviously with what we do with BAM, like I went super headliney on my mail to like infuriate HOA members and that kind of thing to get a conversation going. But really it was Facebook Live and putting out daily or weekly shows rather on Facebook. The first developer that ever worked with me, his dad started the development company. There was 76 homes in this subdivision. The dad who started the development company used a particular CB agent. So the son who took over the company used the same agent. This agent sold 67 of the 76 homes. So 9 homes left. Like, why would you move away from this agent? But remember the time. Nothing was moving back at the double bottom of the market of 2012. Right. And this builder, you make your profits on those last 9, 10, half a dozen homes. That's where the profits come in. And they're getting antsy. His sister saw just one of my weekly shows. I would do a 10-minute show on Facebook. And he reaches out to me and he's like, what are you really going to do differently here? We've got a 20-year relationship. He's sold 67 of the 76. And kind of what Sharon always talks about, the show me listing, without realizing I'm doing the show me demo. I go Facebook Live on the appointment, and now him and I are on Facebook Live, and I'm pitching
his product,
the listings. I'm pitching the development in real time on the appointment, and he's seeing comments and activity, and it's more activity than he's seen in months. And that was it. I got that development, and that led to a whole bunch of future business. Obviously, we closed out that 9 homes and got other builders interested who are sitting on lots or whatever.
I love the fact you're just trying to do new things and continue to put yourself out there and it's not following the same path as everybody else. Let's do our rapid fires real quick and then let's get back into the meat of this because I want to talk about both BAM a little bit and then also your real estate team, which I know you do a lot of real estate. So Keith, you want to kick us off? Because I know this is your favorite question to ask.
Other than your podcast and ours, what is your favorite book or podcast? What do you like to consume, right, for yourself to grow and develop, whether it's through books, audiobooks, podcasts, whatever?
I was going to say your podcast, but since you took that off the table.
We already know. That's why we push that one to the side. Yeah.
I tell people, if you're in business, interested in tech, crossover politics, like to me, All In podcast it's the must listen to every single week. I've been on it since I think they started it, and there's such a crossover between a lot of all of my interests. And I think that they do a really great job. By the way, side note, I know this is supposed to be rapid fire. Cool. Keith Raboy, who's been on their pod, you probably follow, he's a co-founder of Open Door. Him and I have had a back-to-back on X going over the last few days. I'm like, I'm doing I'm going back and forth on X with the co-founder of Open Door, who's been on All In. Like my dreams are now coming true. Full circle. You're almost this is there. Fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. All right. That's awesome. I love that podcast too. All In is a good one. Yep. All right. James, hit him with the next one.
All right. Who's been the most influential person in your life and why?
That's such a crazy question. Do you guys get people to like spit out an answer on that right away?
Yeah, usually it's James Dwiggins.
Yeah, James. Yeah. Sharon. Yeah, I could say Sharon. No.
Sharon's a good one, by the way. That would be actually, I mean, he's a really good one. So
I mean, for business, it is Sharon. Sharon and I have known each other 13 years. He has given me way more than I deserve type of thing. Like the amount he pours into people, not just me or something like that, it's unbelievable. Mm-hmm. And obviously now having him involved with BAM, it's exceptional. But I'll give you an answer, because if you're saying, hey, in your whole life,
sure,
who's the most influential people? I think people are most influenced by their parents, but that's probably not the answer for me. I would say my wife. We've been dating since we were dating at 17 years old. She paid for our entire wedding. I was bankrupt. I had no money. She had saved her money. She paid for the entire wedding, and she was the one that wanted to get married. She was the one that wanted to have kids in our situation. She negotiated with me on both of those cases, and we structured really good deals.
Good job.
She believed in me from day one, and I've lost 3 of my best friends, best man at my wedding. I've lost them over the years. And if I didn't have that stability by my side, I could have gone down a completely different path, like unfortunately a bunch of my friends did.
Yeah. No,
that's a good one.
Yeah, you need that support, whatever that support network looks like at home. With what I think most people don't understand how lonely residential real estate is, right? The transactional part. You're with people all day, but you're not really like you're not just with people, right? And you get home, you're exhausted, you're tired. It doesn't really compute to folks all the time unless you've done it. And that support network at home means so much, so much. Yeah.
Yep. 100%.
Yeah. All right, let's do this. I want to cover BAM for a few minutes because you wear a dual hat. So we get you here. Want to talk about that, and then we'll talk about your team. Because obviously, as the viewers and listeners who, if they didn't know who you are, know you've obviously run a very successful team. So let's start at the top with BAM. So you have a partnership with Eric Simon, yeah? Is that correct? So make sure I got that right.
The broke agent.
Yep. So what brought that together? Like, give us that backstory, because you guys have this massive media company. It's huge, massive followers. Like, where did that start, and like, how did it come together? I'd love to hear that.
And we want the real story, not like the PR story. I want the real one.
I'll give you the real. I'll give you the real story. It started with a friendship, and it's interesting because you asked me about like, hey, what was the one thing that helped you in real estate in the beginning and really gain traction? The one thing that brought Eric and I together back in like 14 or 15 probably is Facebook. Because he started the broke agent brand back 10 plus years ago. That's how long he's been building the humor side of real estate through the broke agent.
Another one of those 10-year overnight successes. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But it's crazy how people don't realize how long he's been grinding that out. And I'm posting on Facebook, which got me on some panel at Inman Connect in New York. It's funny that we actually met first time face to face in New York at Inman Connect, in the hotel lobby. And because he's just not seeing a lot of agents across the country at that point. Now everybody's doing video and all that kind of stuff, but utilizing Facebook. And so he had a partner at the time on the broke agent, and they reach out and they're like, hey, let's go to meet at the lobby. So we meet at the lobby, and that started building our friendship. I actually had a really good relationship with like Laura Brady, Concierge Auctions. They used to throw parties, and I could get into the Zillow party. So I was getting into these parties, and I'm bringing him and along with me. And so that built this friendship, and we kind of became conference friends over the years. And, fast forward to like why we started BAM, it started in a really, I'm not going to say scammy. Eric and I always joke like about, scammy courses. We're like, man, another scam out there. See that one? Right. We're always, and
the
so like
6-minute abs of real estate.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so we're like, hey, maybe we should do the 7-minute abs of real estate and do a course back in COVID. And, we're sitting there, because we're friends, and he has the truest organic following of agents across the real estate industry, not bots. He built it the right way. And so he's got something that he's very protective of. He knows, what I'm doing, and he's like, let's just do a course together. People need this. And we're sitting there on these calls. We're like, dude, this is so scammy. So not us. This is brutal. We're not going to do a course. And so we're like, let's just do media and give a pretty bad business model, but like, let's just give everything away. Let's have no paywall on the media. Let's go complete opposite of what the industry's seen.
Is it really a bad business model? Seems to be working pretty well for Hormozy. You just, you launch a book every couple of years and set a Guinness Book of World Records.
Well, I mean, bad business model in the first 12 months when I'm just, fortunately I have, money and, running a profitable company, and I'm pouring it into this, and at some point it's like, hey, we need to be true to our audience and true to the trust we've built. And it's okay to charge people for value. But the first year we're like, let's just keep building the brand and the audience and that kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I have to admit, I remember so many of the viral humor stuff that was going around. Like it was really funny because if you remember during those years, and especially during COVID, we all needed a little bit of humor.
Yeah.
Because good God, that was a weird time. All right. So you guys are mixing humor and then serious real estate insights. Like, give us a little bit of background on how that combo works. Obviously, the humor is driving traffic, and then you're bringing this validity. Like, just sort of talk about how you blended those two.
Yeah, I mean, the humor side is super relatable because it's Eric calls it the inner, the broke agents, the inner monologue of agents who are struggling. I mean, when he was an agent in LA, it's like he had this inner monologue, and he used to, write jokes at one of the local comedy clubs. And he's got this real cultural feel and funny side to him, but it builds community. It's a connector. And there's a lot of people in that community that are really practitioners, right? And know what they're doing in business. And so connecting the two where you can have fun, it doesn't have to be
so stiff.
This gated experience to information, which has been, or access, right? And we mentioned Sharon. This is one of the reasons I love Sharon. Sharon he's inclusive, he's collaborative.
Yeah.
The industry has been built on a lot of hidden rooms that are hard to get into. And you can't get that information. And so I think why it works is people trust us. The brand is all about trust. I was talking to a startup yesterday, and they're like, how do we get users? It's like you either build a huge brand or you partner with a huge brand, because you can grind out, ads for the next 10 years. Those are going to get diluted over time, but you've got to have that trust component, and that trust over time is going to outweigh kind of those 7-minute, 6-minute ab scam scenarios across the industry.
I have a few questions, follow-ups. One, I love your guys' content. Have you ever gotten in trouble for one of your bits or got?
Oh yeah, we got.
Give me the one. Give me the story about the one that was like, oh damn, that might have been too far.
Well, we do 4 big live virtual events. So outside of our webinars, we do 5 virtual events: the BAM Pro Bowl, what is now BAM Barbecue, which what is now BAM Fest, BAM Barbecue, and the BAMmies at the end of the year, which is a true award show where people actually vote. Nobody pays us for those awards.
Well, damn, we can't win, James.
BAM. No, well, we didn't do podcasts last year, and we are going to do it and just take our podcasts out. So you guys will win this year. But the BAM Fest virtual event, we had, if you haven't noticed, like BAM Mania for a live event, we like to rip off some of these names that are known. Instead of just calling everything a summit, we went with Bamchella for BAM Fest, and boy, I got to tell you, the Coachella people, they're really aggressive with their copyright and trademark. I mean, they did a cease and desist.
You got a little love note, did you?
Instantly. Yeah. Oh, instant cease and desist on Bamchella, which was such a phenomenal name. So that was surprisingly, we haven't had more of those letters. And I think the reason why, like, if you're thinking about sending BAM some kind of lawsuit or cease and desist, just know we will Dave Portnoy it, and we will use it as content, and that'll create an even more trustworthy fan base.
By the way, I love that shit. Like, no, please send it to us. So
go ahead.
We did great content. We just did a podcast, and we didn't find out till after. But the guest, we were referring to a newspaper article that was in the New York Times, and he didn't say it. We were referring to the reporter who did the article, who I don't like, and he didn't mention it during the podcast, but he had the damn article behind him, framed on the wall, and he didn't say it. I was like, oh, you should have said that. That would be hilarious. Like, oh, you mean this one that they had to retract? So,
he had the retraction from the New York Times framed on his wall. It was pretty
framed on the wall behind him. It was awesome.
I have one more follow up.
So gangster.
I have one more follow up. So there's probably a lot of people listening who, like, one thing you guys nail, like, bar none. When I think about you, I'm like, damn, they are so good at their voice. Like, you have a tone, you have a voice. I'm sure it's natural to some degree because it's who you both are. But if there was someone like, I really want to find that voice, I need to find my voice, what advice would you give someone who was maybe just embarking on this process and wanted like an approach? Maybe they're nervous about being too edgy, but you get where I'm coming from. Like, if you're too sterile, if you try to make everyone happy, you make no one happy, right? So in finding your voice, how do you keep the edge but not get in trouble, but be honest? And how does all that fit together in the gumbo?
I mean, what do you obsess about in your free time? So I always, like I said this to Ryan Serhant a number of times at this point. I'm like, Ryan, I could never, I'm not tall enough, good looking enough, like, do a spin move in a listing and do a listing video. Like, I can't do it. It doesn't come naturally. It'd take me all day. He's really good at it. It probably takes him about a minute.
Really good at it.
Yeah.
He's exceptional at it. And now what do I spend my free time doing? And what did I do growing up? Like, I listened to Mike and the Mad Dog every single day. I was a Giants fan growing up in the Northeast. And I'd listen to the Fan, and I listen to sports talk and sports talk debate. There's nothing to me, if I'm killing time, that I want to listen to more than debate. So I like the All In. They're debating, they're going at a different point of topic from different points of view. And that feels very naturally to me. So, fortunately for me, the moment of like camera to face, microphone, almost radio style. I've had a local radio show for over 10 years in Connecticut. Like, local radio all of a sudden became something you could pull off on YouTube and podcast, and it kind of fit in. But there's a lot of ways to do it. And so what do you obsess over in your free time? That's going to be closer to your voice, and go from there. There's a lot of different tones out there that work.
I'd add one, if I can answer my own question, which is normally bad podcast etiquette, but the only thing I would double click on there, and you alluded to it very well, is trust is established through access to truth, right? Consistent access to truth. And while it may feel scary to put yourself out there, the real you, right? Air quotes, real you. that is, in my opinion, like you nailed it, right? I like sports talk. I like debate. The content that I go out there and I produce is thoughtful debate on certain topics. So finding that thing that is inside you and letting that out, and it can be really scary to do because you're putting it out there in front of, well, in the beginning, you're putting it out there in front of 4 or 5 people, but eventually, hopefully it'll be a lot, right? Does that resonate with you? And then how do you push through the fear of putting your real self out there into the social media world?
Listen, I think my whole life I've been closer to a 50-50 guy than a 75-25. 50-50, 50% of the people are like, dude, I love him. I love him. 50% of my teachers would tell me, like, hey, he's not getting that great of grades, but I like him. I appreciate him. And 50% of my teachers shoved me in ISS, in school suspension, every single month. I mean, me and shout out Mr. Stockwell. We were boys. Yeah. I'd have a stack of books and I'd be with Stockwell in school suspension.
Yeah. Mr. Stockwell, so, look at Byron now. Look at him now. Yeah.
Shout out to Stockwell. I liked him. He was a good dude. But the same way now with content, I'll put something out and even somebody may I like your last 8 things. I hate what you said here. Right. So I'm more aligned with the 50-50. That's the debate stuff. I don't want or expect everybody to align with every single one of my viewpoints.
I love it.
What I think is holds people back from that, I'm very comfortable with it, is like, if I don't agree with something that James says,
you push back, which you did, by the way.
Or I could push back on something, but it doesn't mean, I'm never going to listen to James again, because James is a lot smarter than me in a lot of areas. And I want to be able to pull from that. And I want to be able to collaborate with James. And I want to be able to learn from James and share his points of view, whether I agree with him or disagree with him. We get into this place where it's like I'm emotional about that point, and then I've written James off, or I've wrritten Byron off, or Keith, and it doesn't make any sense.
It's very illogical,
so
right?
True.
Yeah, great point.
By the way, I did want to say that, I've done a lot of interviews over the past few years, and I was on Byron's podcast, Housing Wire, a few months ago. And I love the way you approach it, because you're fair, but you're not afraid to push back. And I think that's good, because it needs to be a conversation, and it doesn't mean we have to agree on everything. But you're fair about it. You do a really, really good job of that, and you still make the guests feel comfortable, on the show. So, kudos to you on that. Let me,
Keith, I was just checking my email for my invite to be on the pod. Nope, still don't see it. Still don't see
Keith,
it.
That's just going to have to be when we're in person together, because those one-on-one
fun.
Interviews.
Yeah, let's get it.
We always do those in person, but we should have you on Knowledge Brokers Pod, both of you at some point. But
don't worry about it.
But that interview or conversation that James and I had, I mean, the community is ready to anoint James the next leader of all things association in our business.
Yeah.
I mean, he is the president of the industry after that, and they loved it.
Good job, James.
Not everybody liked what I had to say, and I'm not advocating for the job, just so everybody knows.
No, it's okay. I got this. I'll run the pod. You go do what you need to do.
No, I literally can think of a lot of other things I want to do than run an association. So, all right, we got a certain amount of time. I want to get into this too, because what people, I think not everybody knows that you've got BAM, because this is where obviously your face is, and you're spending a lot of time there, but you also run one of the most successful teams in the country. And so can we transition there real quick? So I want to be able to give people some tangible things. So we're really trying to get in now with hearing from some of the top team leaders across the US and top agents to be like, how the hell did you do this?
Yeah.
And really get tactile, because kind of to the conversation we're having, a lot of it's really surfacey. People don't really get that deep into it. So you built the one team, which is I don't know if this data is correct. You'll have to correct me if I'm off. But number 1 transaction team in Connecticut, is that still
the number I'm actually using to get very specific?
Okay.
I use it on the radio show all the time. Is number 1 in listings sold for any team in the state of Connecticut since April 2022. Now I could go back and pick another date, and still that
totally
variable be true.
Yeah.
But the reason I use that on the radio is because that's when interest rates accelerated. And I use this script on the radio all the time. And sellers either held back their listing or got very specific on who and when they would list with. And this team has been chosen more times in my radio voice, more times than any other team by some.
All right. Let me ask you 3 fast questions because I want to make sure we get a bunch of stuff in here for time. How big is your team, the markets you serve, and your production for 2024? I'm doing this to set it up so people understand the context. So Connecticut, I just go with Connecticut. If it's like, we don't do Greenwich, for example, but we'll connect with somebody in Greenwich. So if we get referrals all over Connecticut, we work in almost every single county. Connecticut's a small state, 3.65 million people. There's only 2,000 new units that come online every single year. They don't build. So we're really dealing with existing home sales in Connecticut.
For the state, 2,000.
For the state, 3.65 million population, 2,000 new units a year. That's all they bring online for sale units. And so you drive a lot if you're a Connecticut agent, but you can get from one side to the other pretty quickly. So we're in Connecticut. We have 60 agents today. I always say, like, mega team, or how Real Trends would describe mega team leader. You always say today because it could be 59 tomorrow or 61
right.
the next day. If you're walking somebody to the line, an old Chet Black line, are you going to walk them to the line or not? And so production today, year to date, we're at 450 closed and pending. And last year, we had a down year on agent count. We only closed 440 units last year. So we'll get back to
way bigger. Yeah, this year. You guys are killing it. Yeah.
We've had 700 transaction years. And so we're going to get back to that because we're back to, recruiting essentially, which is the key variable if you're going to go mega team size. And so we'll probably have our highest volume. We're leading Connecticut in volume this year. We'll have our highest volume year this year as well.
That's amazing.
Probably shy of 300 million, but right.
By the way, congratulations. I wanted to say this from a perspective of going from bankruptcy to where you are. Like, I'm such a fan of rising and just kicking ass. And so, like, I'm the biggest cheerleader for people's success. So it's just a great story.
And I'll replug what we were talking about earlier on, why does BAM work? They trust the brand. Well, it also is trustworthy when, like James and Keith, when you guys are doing content, when it's coming from a practitioner standpoint and it's not just, I'm just a coat, or I'm just, kind of a panel. Me and Eric go to conferences like, there's a panel pontification panel.
A PP, a panel pontificator. Yeah, that's funny.
Yep, a panel pontificator. We always use that line. And so, I just respect what you guys do so much, coming from in the weeds, in the business, 50 states with Nexome, just doing it. I just admire that.
Yeah, I always respect people who are in the arena, right? There's that, I think it's a Roosevelt speech.
Oh yeah,
the man in the arena. Yeah,
it's right over here in my studio. One of my
favorites. And I think you can come from outside and still provide great context and genius and light bulb moments and all of that stuff. It's not, it's not causal. It is correlative, right? But there is something to just having done it and have the chipped teeth and the scars and the bruises to prove it.
In today's world, how communities are built and how people are connected online, you just see more gravitation towards that. There's a bigger gravitational pull towards it. Why it's, we mentioned Hermosi earlier. It's why Hermosi's been so successful. He's exited out of a huge company that he built. He's done everything that he's talking about. And the gravitational pull now with social, of being able to really see through BS, is going more and more in that direction, which is a good thing.
Yeah. I'm going to ask a follow-up on the team component. Can you, how have you grown that team? Can you unpack that for us a little bit? Like, if someone was like, okay, I'm a successful individual agent, it's ready to go team time, or I'm considering it. If I wanted to go build a team, what would the ways you'd want to do that?
So I built it backwards. I think That's of cool. How most people would do it. I went full mode, like building out training, building out what I called a new agent program before I ever had a new agent. I obsessed over, like, how many training sessions per day? What's that training going to look like? How long until you get out of the program before I started actually adding agents? But, if you're really going to grow, you got to know what you offer. We primarily offer 3 things. And we have a lot of things agents can tap into, but we offer leads, we offer training, we offer support. Okay. So, our ability to take an agent from zero, or somebody who's been in the business 2-3 years and has been bouncing around, 2 closings a year, or 2 to 4 closings a year, to all of a sudden 24 or 30 closings. It can happen very quickly when we focus on those 3: leads, training, and support. A sales agent today shouldn't be doing MLS uploads, in my opinion.
Sure.
And there's going to be people that listen to this, back to the 50-50, like, I disagree with that. I like doing that stuff. Okay, well, you're doing assistant work.
Yeah.
And so we don't want our agents being their own assistants, and agents are, especially in the beginning, really bad at understanding how to acquire a customer. And everybody, even me today, needs continuous training and continuing of sharpening our skills. So
you really, you sort of began with the end in mind, to quote the crusty, dusty Stephen Covey, right? You knew what agents would need coming in, and let me create and curate. By the way, I'm glad, if just in case the audience noticed, James, I cut his internet because I get tired of him dominating the questions, and I wanted Byron to myself so we could really
a little
dig
Byron
in.
time, Byron and Keith time.
I booted James, and now it's just me and B, and so we're going to get to the real. But I think what I heard you say was you really started with the end in mind. And you try to think about someone coming in, what are they going to need? How can they be successful? Here's the blueprint. Here's my blueprint. You don't like this blueprint? Go work somewhere else. But
consistent training is such a weak spot in our business.
Yeah.
I'm really being serious, because every brokerage would be like, well, not us. We're the. And
what does consistent training mean? What does that mean? Like how many trainings a week, or really express it?
Right now we do 8 training sessions per week. So we have our 9 a.m. and then our 11 a.m. So if you're an accelerator agent, which we rebranded the new agent program to Accelerator, if you're an accelerator, less than 10 lifetime closings. I've gotten soft over the years because it used to be 30 lifetime closings before you left the program. If you're in that program, the standard, the expectation, they're contractors, do whatever you want. But the expectation of how you're going to get to where you want to go would be, you dive into all 8 of those sessions every single week. And think about that. The old Kobe Bryant clip from that famous clip of him talking about, going out there and going to practice 3 times a day instead of 1 time a day. When you compound that, by the time you get to your 10th lifetime closing, if you're doing 2 trainings a day, Monday through Thursday, so 8 a week, and that's going to be 32 a month, how much further along are you going to be when you have that 10th closing? I'd argue that I'd put you up against, at 10 closings, I'd put you up against any 5, 6, 7 year vet who's just kind of gotten there over time and scattered referrals and doesn't do any training. Your knowledge bank is fresh, it's relevant, and it's got substance in the moment. And if you keep doing it, it compounds from there.
Yeah. And so 8 a week. If you're listening, when you're giving yourself the report card, right? Do you have 8 trainings a week in your office? If you don't, maybe think about that, right? Because I know there are a lot of operators, and I'll be honest, when I was one, like some weeks, the best I had was my 20-minute training session in my team meeting, right? And
I'd rather start on, if you're like, I want to scale a team, and scaling a team's not for everybody. I think every agent should be falling into some type of team category: the big, scalable, bigger team, lots of infrastructure, knows how to generate leads, or, building a small SEAL team around them where they're not doing administrative. And obviously there's brokerage models that can support that, and all kinds of different models. But I think working with, as opposed to alone, is a really good bet. But if you're like, where am I going to start? I would start with building a true training center on that team before you invest in a bunch of leads. Because if you have a bunch of leads and you've got a high customer acquisition cost on those, and you're not closing them because the skill set's there, or you're not responding to them quickly enough, well, you're going to quit on that because you lost a bunch of money, and then you're going to be restarting anyway.
Right.
So, you got to have the skills.
We had someone on the pod a little while back, and his visual for it cracked me up. He's like, okay, I want you to imagine I have a pile full of cash in my passenger seat, and then I roll down the window, and I just start grabbing handfuls of cash and throwing it out the car window. And that's what it is to spend money on advertising without a properly trained inbound sales team that can work it, right? Like, it's so important.
Listen, inbound sales has to be a part of every agent's business. Like, being able to respond within the first 60 seconds if you don't have that figured out, don't even start thinking about how I generate more leads.
Yeah, speed to lead is paramount, right? Do you guys track your speed to lead?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Do you mind sharing what's a good benchmark for me if I was...
under a minute. We have ISA coverage now 7 days a week. When we started ISA, we certainly didn't, but it's 7 days a week. It's at night. We've got different shift blocks on ISA. To me, if you're going mega scale team, you really need to focus in, like I said, training first, but once you have that solved for, you need to solve for speed to lead, not the amount of leads. That you can start pouring that in after you've solved for speed to lead.
Yeah.
That has to be the thing.
You mentioned ISAs. Do you use virtual assistants for that, or are they all local?
Ours are local in office, and then we have VA support for them. And kind of everything that we do we're big, like Summit VA. Stacy's a great friend.
Yep.
I've been with them, I think, since their day one or year one.
Yeah.
But yeah, we have in-house and then VA support almost everything that we do.
Yeah. Yeah. I've had a virtual assistant for 15 years, I think. Yeah. Yeah. Huge scaler. All right. I got one more question and then we'll take it to the final question that we always ask. But I'm sort of our resident AI nerd at our company. And so anytime I can kick James off the pod and ask AI questions, I like to. So what are your thoughts around AI? How are you thinking about it for your business? Just unpack, AI and Byron and what that looks like.
Yeah. So I would say BAM versus, the one team in Connecticut, my two companies. BAM is way more advanced in our day-to-day on AI, but those are creative, video, editing, graphic, writer, the connectability that the team is doing with BAM to make our lives easier with AI is pretty advanced in comparison to the real estate team. Now, when I think about it for a real estate team, an office, a brokerage, there is going to come a day where the TC's role, however you're operating, your TCs, whether you're outsourcing that, which I totally disagree with outsourcing TC work, but that's a whole rant that I would go on if you allowed me to.
Do you think the agent should do the transaction coordination work?
No. I think that agents who are outsourcing to a TC vendor in their market, and there's 30 of their competitors all using the TC, is a horrific model. and I could spend an hour podcast going through it.
We'll have you back. Yeah.
But however you're operating your TCs, hopefully they're in-house. There is going to come a day where that role is really pushed out of the organization with AI. It's not today, and it's probably a little bit further away than we think it is. What's happening today that's really working? Well, on the content side, the marketing side, like what we're doing with BAM, there's a lot of advantages you can do to not have to keep hiring out talent to, make your content and your marketing a lot more efficient in-house. And I'm not just talking about like creating generic content that the only person who's going to engage with it is mom and dad. I'm talking about the systems.
I feel attacked right now, Byron. I feel like you're talking to me.
No, I'm talking about the systems that you use to operate that. And so content creation, marketing, there's some really cool companies. This is not a plug, but there's some really cool companies. We're just talking about the ISA conversation. We're using Shiloh, House Whisper, that some of that stuff, like what Shiloh's doing on grading a call and then the instant ability to role play. Justin and the team that's a really cool thing.
It is.
And you can use that today and get better. There's no question about it. And your sales manager is going to be so much more efficient. They can manage more agents. I think, unfortunately, and Keith, you know this. Unfortunately, a lot of managers in offices they have no idea what their agents are actually saying on the phone.
No, for sure.
They have no way to grade that. Tell me what you said. And then it's like 30% of the version of what actually happened.
Right.
So, AI can solve for that if you actually want to have quality control over these conversations.
Yeah, love it. Okay, I have two more questions. One's a quick one. I asked a buddy of mine, mutual friend. I'm not going to tell you who, but it may give it away. Wanted me to ask you, what is your obsession with creme brulee?
Now I'm wondering who this is. I don't post anything super personal online.
Right.
Like you never see, you'll never really see a picture on Instagram with me. I've never posted one with me and my wife or my girls. Because honestly, I wouldn't even be using social if I wasn't in business.
Right. I get you. I feel you.
So if I wouldn't post that stuff to begin with,
why would I do it now?
So anyways, I like having a nice dinner. Like hopefully me, you, James, one day,
yeah.
We're going to have a nice 4-person, 6-person dinner, go somewhere really nice. You go to a nice place to have a nice dessert option like creme brulee. And I like giving, this is kind of just weird thing. I like giving people a sneak peek so that 5 seconds of the creme brulee tap. Oh, that looks like tag the rest. That looks like a nice restaurant. Man, who's he with? What kind of conversations are they having? But I never show the inside, the under layer of the creme brulee. I just tap the top. You're not going to see the insides of this dinner. This was just for us.
You do a creme brulee tease.
A creme brulee tease, always the same song, little sweetie, tap in, tap in.
I love it.
And that story just gets a ton of engagement is the reason I keep doing it.
It's almost
so people
like
will tag
Portnoy's pizza reviews almost.
Yeah, it's kind of
it's like your version. Yeah.
People find it interesting, so they reply back. They send me their taps, tag me. And obviously social is a game of engagement. It's just become kind of a running joke. And they'll always make the mistake, Keith. If you send me one, don't make this mistake. Don't tap in. Don't break through.
Noted.
That's for the inside of the creme brulee is for us to enjoy at the dinner.
Noted. Got it. There is proper creme brulee social media etiquette. Got it.
There's rules to the game.
All right. We end every podcast with this. For agents or team leaders listening who want to build something at scale, what's the one piece of advice you would give to them to start that process?
So build something at scale.
Yeah, looking to grow. I want more business.
Speed on revenue, producing activities. Like we were talking about, customers should be responded to within the first minute. Every single time, no excuses. It's a revenue producing activity, speed to revenue, and then slow on the expenses. Everybody has it flipped. Oh, I'm going to get the CRM that everybody's on. I'm going to get the fancy office. That's going to help me recruit. I've done the fancy office mistake.
Me too.
It's not the variable to recruiting at all.
No.
Okay. The outcome of how much an agent can net, just like the outcome of how much a seller can net at the end of the day, is how they make decisions. And they're going to net more if you solve for revenue producing activities like the speed to lead. So, be aggressive on investing on speed to revenue and be real slow on those expensive, it's like, don't buy the Rolex until you really have an accomplishment to celebrate. I don't have a Rolex yet. Me and Eric will buy one someday, I guess.
Apple Watch. Yeah. Yeah. I love it because I think you're right. Too often we'll stroke a check, not really have the follow-up plan in place or implemented, not even have the proper training, to your earlier point, for how to handle that sort of increase in volume of leads. Then we do the spend. It doesn't work, air quotes, because we didn't set it up right. And then we're pissed off and we go spend money somewhere else rather than sticking with the thing that could get you there. I think it's great advice. Yeah. All right. Well, Byron, thanks for being on the pod. We appreciate it, and we will have you on again soon.
It was a pleasure. Thank you. Thanks for what you guys are doing for the industry and putting this type of content out. Really appreciate what you guys are doing with the pod.
Thanks. And same to you. Same to you and what you guys are doing over there.
Thank you.
All right.
You listened. Now take some action. Subscribe now so you never miss an episode.